Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Actually, we used to live in Eunice when I was a little kid, so I've been out here before. I'm trying to see how this, okay, I'm trying to see how this thing works. Oh, here we go. What do I do? Where are we? Yeah, there we go.
And then you can just use arrows after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, buddy. Okay, I want to tell you a story to get started of how the people of this place got here. Are you interested in that? So there are two stories, actually, and so I'm going to piggyback them because I think they go in this order, and I think they go with one another. So a really, really long time ago, and this was when mastodons roamed the earth, like saber-toothed tigers and, you know, all of those big dinosaur-like creatures roamed the earth. The Creator, there were plants, there were scouring rush as tall as this building, pine tree tall, scouring rush. And the Creator saw fit to create human ones. He created them out of clay. He made them in this cave. Out of the clay in that cave, formed their bodies from that. And the first people to be made emerged from the cave. They laid down on the ground, dried themselves off in the sun, dusted that clay off, got up, and they walked east. And those are the people who we now call the Cherokee people. The second group of people to come out who were formed came out of the cave, laid down on the ground, dried themselves off in the sun, dusted themselves off, and they walked east, but not as far. Those are the people who we now call the Muskogee people. The third group of people to come out of that cave laid down on the ground, sunned themselves, dried themselves off, dusted themselves off. They went north. Those are the people who we call the Chickasaw people, who we now call the Chickasaw people. The fourth group of people to come out of that cave laid down on the ground, dried themselves, dusted themselves off, and they stayed. Those are the people who we now call the Choctaw people. The place where they originated, all those four groups of people. This is a mound, but the cave associated with this mound is called Naniwaya. Still a long time ago, but after that, there were a group of people who were living, they say, where the sun goes down into the ocean, so somewhere out west, and we don't know where. This group of people were having trouble surviving. Their babies were dying. Their elders were passing away. This is like the most vulnerable among them were not able to make it. And they didn't know what to do. And so they went to their spiritual leader and they said, you know, we don't know what to do. You got to figure out what to do. We got to get out of here. We don't know what to do. And he said, yeah, I'm going to go into the woods and I'll be back when I get back. And that was the way of the medicine people, the spiritual people, kind of like a priest and a medicine person. So he went into the woods and he stayed for a long time. When he came back, he said, I know what we're going to do. There are two brothers, Chata and Chickasaw. These brothers will lead us out of this place. And the way we're going to know where to go is we're going to take this pole and we're going to stick it in the ground. And when we wake up in the mornings, any way that pole is pointing, whichever direction, that's where we're going to go. And you know, it sounds random. It's like, you know, Eunice, we got to get. We're going to put a pole in the ground and we're going to follow it now, right? Except that in their culture, in the way that they believed back in the day, there were three worlds. One was the lower world where, you know, like the alligators are and the snakes are and the creatures who live, crawfish lives there. And there was the middle world. That's where we live right here. And there was the upper world. That's where the birds fly and the stars are. And in the belief system, those three worlds, there was chaos in the underworld. Here we are in the middle world trying to balance the upper world and the lower world, because the upper world is real regular, like the sun comes up real regularly. So they weren't following a pole in the ground. They were following the spirits from all three of these worlds to where they were going to go. They had no clue where they were going to end up. So he said, get your babies and get your gourds, get your baskets, get your seeds, get things that are lightweight, get things that you can carry with you, and let's go. And he said, go to bed. And when we wake up, whatever direction the pole is facing, we're going to follow it. And they did. They went to bed and they woke up and the pole was facing east. And every day the pole was facing east. And they traveled over mountains and they traveled over gorges and they traveled over deserts. And who knows how long they were out there traveling. And on the way, some of their babies died, and also some of their elders. And it wasn't their belief that you would just bury a person in the ground wherever they died, because in their belief system, there was spirit attached to the bones. There was spirit attached to the person. There was spirit that the person had with them that would never, ever leave them. So you don't just leave that spirit to wander out in the desert with no family and no community. No, you bring those bones with. And they had bone pickers, people who were trained up, who grew their fingernails, 2 of their fingernails long, who would scrape those bones to get it all clean so that they could bring those bones with them. The young men would travel all day, then go back, get the baskets of bones, bring them with. They did this over and over until they got to the Mississippi River. And they must have thought, oh my gosh, this is it. Look, there's elderberry here. And there's cane. And there's hickory. And there's Osage orange. And there's just everything, palmetto. There's stuff to eat. Bison and squirrels and everything you can imagine here. And I'm sure they thought this must be it. And they put the pole in the ground, and the pole was facing east the next day. And they took cane like this right here, like this atlatl. They took cane and they lashed that cane together. And they crossed that Mississippi River. They traveled a little bit further to the place that we now know as Naniwaya. And they put the pole in the ground. And when they woke up the next morning, the pole was standing straight up. And they said, yeah, this is it. This is our place. They buried the bones here. Chickasaw, Choctaw, and Chickasaw, there wasn't room for both. You know, territories had to be large back in the day because you had to feed a lot of people, and you needed the plants, and you needed the animals, and you needed to do that, the space to do that. Not like Walmart. And so Chickasaw moved. He moved north to North Mississippi. But Chada and his group, they stayed. So you can imagine. Yeah, I'm never going to figure this out. Oh, there we go. So they built a mound there. They buried the bones there. They scattered themselves from there. Them and the people who were birthed in that cave as well, that cave at Naniwaya. They built mound sites all over Louisiana, all over Mississippi. There are hundreds of mounds in Mississippi, and I mean hundreds of mounds in Mississippi and Louisiana, with trade routes that connected those mounds, that connected the mound building people in the Southeast to all of the Americas. Wait a minute. Oops. Around those mounds, there were hundreds of different plants that were used for thousands of different things. And the thing about it is that the plants, some of these are common to the mound spaces. So they were actually bringing them with them. They were going and getting them, bringing them with them, bringing seeds, tending these things. So these plants right here have been found around the mounds in Mississippi, Louisiana, like that. And look at how many, and that's just the ones they found, right? Look at persimmons and strawberries and sunflowers and elderberry. And yeah, they had a relationship with these plants. They also had a relationship with these plants. These were ceremonial plants. Some of them, like nicotine, like tobacco, and datura, and morning glory, and gourd, were used to connect with the spirit world, really is what it was about, connecting with the spirit world. So they were using plants not only for food and for medicine and for teas and but also to connect with the spirit world. You know, usually the path to connect with the spirit world is to lower your defenses, get that ego out the way. These plants were able to do that for them. They had names for these plants. So chinchuba, that means alligator. That's St. Andrew's cross. And the leaves were boiled and the liquid was used to bathe sore eyes. When the Europeans came, they took some of these people who were coming over and really saving their lives, really, because they were sharing the knowledge of the medicine and the food with the Europeans when they came over. They took these people around and showed them their plants and gave them the names of the plants. So smilax, pound the roots, get some water, make a paste, kind of like flour, and use bear grease to put with it. Ahi, sweet potato, cone flour. They were showing them the way to be in relationship with the natural world, showing them the benefit of staying in relationship, teaching them how to tend these plants. So you can imagine in the 1830s when the US government forced removal of the natives to a territory that was named by the Choctaw, called Ocala, meaning people, Houma meaning red, but really not just red people, really Houma. You know how you say you're blue? And you don't mean you're actually literally, although I am blue today, but you know what you mean. Red means honorable, the home of the honorable people. When they were forcibly removed, you know, to a place where in a lot of Oklahoma, it's like prairie and kind of barren, you know. So these people did not know the plants of that area. They did not know the animals of that area. When they moved there, and they lost relationship with the plants of this area, we kind of forgot. And necessarily so. I mean, we couldn't help it, because when we were removed, it wasn't just us that was removed. Our plants were removed because they wanted railroads, they wanted cotton fields, they wanted sweet, what do you call it? Cane, sugar cane, right? So it's like, but they didn't just remove us. They pushed back our native plants to forested areas that they didn't have to deal with, right? Whereas when we were tending in the forest and had some native plants around our mound sites and around our homes, but we were tending the forest. So we were out in the forest. They did not want that forest and removed that as well. That was savage, right? That was, the people were savages. The territory that was wooded areas was scary, savage, right? They had to get rid of that. Nations were split in half. So we have here the Great Seal of the Muskogee Nation, and we also have the Muskogee tribe, the Porch Creek tribe in Alabama. We have the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians and the Choctaw Nation in Oklahoma. We have the Seminole tribe of Florida and the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma. These are families that were split in half. People who thought the only way to survive was to go. People who were not going to go no matter what. Split the family in half. And others. We have so many tribes here. Let me see if I can do this. We have, uh-oh, I messed up. I need you. Whoops. What did I hit? There we go. Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah, I'll stay in my lane. Thank you. I stay in my lane. We have so many tribes who were here, who still are here. Right? Isn't that awesome? We stayed. Look at that. Look at that. But you can imagine, even this most sacred plant, this is from Bushnell, and it used to be called Ilex cassine, it's now called Ilex vomitoria. This most sacred plant that grew throughout the region, that was even found near native tribes, they forgot ever using that plant. That was the foundation for the black drink of the green corn ceremony, the most sacred time of year, when the green corn would come up and let you know that you were going to eat. You were going to eat well for the next year, and you celebrated that. Not only celebrated it, but we need it back today, because during the green corn ceremony, we were required to extinguish the fire, which means the new year, something new is beginning. You extinguish the old and bring in the new. But also, you were required to let go of any kind of problem you had with somebody. So you took my money, my $20 off my dresser, it's gone. I had a year to grieve it. I had until green corn ceremony to be mad. And then I had to let it go. And if I didn't let it go, the elders would chastise you. You know, hey, you said, that's over. That's over. Because community was more important than $20. And community was more important than everything except murder. And murder was met with murder. So you murder somebody in my family, you show up a week later and we're going to kill you too. So yeah, that's rough. But everything else we had to forgive. Think about that now. Think about the divisions we have amongst each other. Think about families who don't even get along. You had to get over that, because without community, you didn't survive. These plants were their community as well, though, y'all. Without them, you don't survive, right? You can't survive either. Touching things I shouldn't. Yeah, but it's understandable that we forgot about Yaupon. And we know Yaupon was huge because you see all these words for it, right? When you see a bunch of native words for something, you know that plant was used everywhere, everywhere. They found Yaupon holly residue in left-handed whelk shells up in Cahokia. It was a trade item as well, because it's caffeine in the leaves. I mean, who wouldn't get addicted and want to trade whatever? Give your mama for that. The plant whose leaves were traded all over the world. They weren't only forgotten. By some people, they're considered poison. They see that Ilex vomitoria. By the way, we wrote over, this friend of mine and I, we wrote to somebody in England, whoever makes up the name, and we're like, yeah, that's not the right name. That's just not even okay. And they're like, yeah, we're not changing nothing. So, but we tried anyway. And if it's not considered poison, over in Mississippi, it's considered a trash plant. You just walk by it and step your foot on it. I am not kidding you. Although we have it in a place in on the campus. It's not on the campus. It's off the campus in a wooded area. And the biologist says that the deer won't touch it, but they have some woodland cows out there, and they're addicted to it. They'll actually stomp it down and eat it bare. Eat it bare. So that's what we had in mind when Joe asked me what I wanted to do on campus other than have a yearly powwow. And I said, you know, I want to build a garden, because our elders were saying that they had forgotten their relationship with the plants. They had not only forgotten their relationship and what they used these plants for and how to tend them, they had forgotten the names of them in their original language. It's like I was, like calling you some other name other than your own, or forgetting that I even know you. That's how out of balance we had gotten with these plants, with the natural world. Not our fault, but still do something about it. So we built this garden on the campus of Southern Miss. This was the area that we built on. We got given this area. I couldn't believe it, because it's in the middle of the dance building, the liberal arts building, the international building. There's a parking lot. We built this garden. We chose the shape of a medicine wheel because we have 4-direction teachings in our tribes too. And we wanted it to be a sacred space, a spiritual space, a space where people could come and not only learn about plants, but have another layer to it with teachings about how to live your life and be in balance and how to get along in the world, and have a good experience at that. So we built this garden and we paved the paths. And the kids went to their Pokneys, their grandmas, and they said, how do you say sweet potato? How do you say corn? How do you say muscadine? And we put these sacred old symbols, Southeastern symbols. We just got sticks and they dug them into the path, calling their grandma and saying, how do you spell tanchi for corn? They really got excited about it when their handprints went into it, and these symbols went into it, and their grandma's words went into it. Because bringing it back, that's what it requires, right? We got to get into it. Here they are all lined up, drawing, and she's looking at some of the sacred symbols. And then we colored the paths. B&B Concrete in Tupelo, Mississippi gave us paint for the paths. And here they are. This was actually this morning. I went out there this morning and and you see the cane? Well, you can't see it real well. There's cane. Well, let me see. There's cane in that picture. You see the cane over here? This is the southern path. There's cane over there. There's a palmetto. There's a wax myrtle in there that I can see. And this is just what's up right now, because mostly everything's doing its underground work because it's winter, so it's not really out very good. This is what she looks like right this minute from overhead. She's beautiful. I think this is not in focus. That's what I'm looking at, but that's okay. And this is what she looks like in the summertime. The physical plant just recently got involved with helping me. First, they told me I never, just don't even ask. And then I'm like, okay. And then they're like, yeah, we'll help you, because we had some papers that hit about the medicine wheel garden. It got some attention, and when somebody gets famous, they just can't help them enough, So she got herself famous, and now they can't help her enough, So it's like, but the first thing they did was I had a weeping yopon holly, and its limb went into the sidewalk, and you just had to do like this, to get around it. You did like that. And I said, yeah. And they're like, what about that limb, Tammy? I'm like, you want to cut that off, don't you? And they're like, yeah. I said, well, the problem is that's called a domination paradigm. You just want it to be like you want it to be and make it easy for you. And you're not considering what you're doing to her. That's her limb, It's like anything can happen when you cut that off for no reason. And I thought I had convinced them, and I thought I had explained myself. And then I come back to the garden and the limb's gone. Yeah, so I told him, but that's okay. That's okay, because what I know to be true is that that's her story. Now she has a story, and she's been wounded like all of us, right? Everybody has a wound. Everybody's been wounded. You don't get off the earth without something happening. And that's what happened to her. And now I can talk even more. I told him, I said, you made me cry. You took that off, and I cried about it. So I made him feel real bad. But there was no reason. You know what I mean? Like, this is how we treat the earth. This is how we treat our plants. This is how we treat the most sacred ceremonial plant that we have in the Southeast. I didn't like it. And I let him know too. But we need that garden because she's a working garden. She's helping us wake up our cultural traditions like basket weaving. And you know, some of this we know. Like, we have basket weavers who know how to find cane. We have basket weavers who know how to weave. We know that the cane, it's bendable in the first year. You don't want to harvest it then. You want to wait till the second year. It's when you shake it, it doesn't bend. It does like this. You know what I mean? That's harvestable cane. We know all of that. But you see that color in that cane right there? I mean, you see that color in Ms. Zula's basket right there? That is writ dye. That is a beautiful basket. She went out and harvested the cane. She split the cane herself. She wove the cane. We have forgotten our dyes. We really have. But you know, they're out there. It's out there. Stuff is out there about it. So here's something else from Bushnell that says, you know, people used to paint this crescent on their cheek. He said it was used to represent the new moon in the dark blue sky. We know how to find the color too, but we're not using the color. Here we are. We know the plait. That's a one weave, two over. You go over twice. You go over 3 pieces of cane, double weave, triple weave. We know how to weave coral honeysuckle right there. Those are coral honeysuckle baskets. We know how to do it. We not only know how to weave and weave different in different ways, we know how to create patterns like worm tracks. This is a chitamacha. These are chitamacha baskets, and blackbird's eyes, and alligator entrails, and bull's eyes, and muscadine rinds. They have names for about 70 or 80 of these patterns in their baskets. We know how to weave. All writ dyed. All writ dyed. Bushnell says that the Choctaws were great basket makers. They made baskets out of cane like this right here. And they had intricate patterns like the chitamacha. This is not a very intricate pattern, but it's a very good basket. It's woven. It's got a supple jack handle under here. You know, the cane is wrapped around the handle. And then on the bottom, you see how the cane passes around the bottom? Okay, I've had this basket probably 10 years. I carry heavy stuff in it. It's lasted. It's great. But the cane ran out. We forgot how to harvest cane. We would harvest cane by cutting. See, these basket weavers want the longest piece they can possibly get. They cut at the ground. The cane wouldn't grow back from that place. They needed to cut about this high up, and the cane would grow back. So they quit using cane because they had to walk and find it. And they started using palmetto stems. This is a palmetto stem basket made by someone in Sierra who lives in Bayou Lacombe, or who was born and raised in Bayou Lacombe. So they took the stem of the palmetto, which is almost as hard. You can feel it after. It's almost as sturdy as cane, and made baskets with that. We forgot too that, you know, the seeds of cane can be roasted for food, and the emerging stalks, you see that's me tending, which is like a forest. You can pop off those emerging stalks and you can eat that cane just like that. We know about longleaf pine. Here's Miss Becky, a Clifton Choctaw, making longleaf pine baskets. Here's a Coshada person making longleaf pine baskets. The flower is China raffia, and the color is writ dye. Here's another pine cone, but aren't they beautiful? Aren't they amazing and beautiful? Pine cone. Yeah, pine cone basket or pine needle baskets. Here's one. It's a pine needle basket. The one on the right, I have one like that. And they use the pine cone little whatevers you call them to make that turkey right there. Isn't that beautiful? And we forgot that pine nuts are edible, that you can boil the inner bark, that the pine pollen can be collected and used like flour, that pine needle tea is an antiseptic. It's good for colds, that there's a Tamiflu in pine needles from Asia and probably in some of ours too. And that the pine resin can be put on your skin if you have a sore that needs to be healed. We forgot a lot, right? Here's palmetto baskets, Tala. I don't know where the A went. Oh, it's down there. Here's palmetto baskets, a half hitch coal basket. That's Miss Janie. This is the basket right here. We forgot how to make this basket. Miss Janie brought it back. We know a lot about Tala. This is a plaited palmetto basket. You can see that right here. They plait the palmetto and then sew the plaits together to make a basket. Yeah, or whatever they feel like making is what they make. Yeah. We know a lot about palmetto. We know that we can take those fronds and make a palmetto hut out of them. My great grandma lived in one of those when she was a child, her and her whole family. But what we've forgotten is that the roots, you can boil the roots and make things to use for your eyes, and the roots are used for your kidneys, and the fronds are used for, you can actually make a cordage out of the fronds. And yeah, we forgot a lot. As a matter of fact, making that palmetto hut right there, we'll make that entire palmetto hut. And the way you do it is you take willow and you make like this like dome shaped, like 4 willow limbs, and make this dome shape. So there's 8 of them. And then you tie them at the top. Well, the whole thing has to shut down when you tie them if you don't have string, because now we got to go to Walmart. We forgot our cordage. We go out and harvest the willow. We go out and harvest the palmetto. We know how to tie the palmetto on. We forgot the cordage part of it, right? That's yeah. But understandable. We know about Spanish moss. Spanish moss babies. We know how to use Spanish moss. This is a Spanish moss baby right here. We know how to stuff it into mattresses, stuff it into car seats. We know about Spanish moss. We know how to dry it. I mean, like you can put it on a piece of tin, or you can bury it under the ground, or you can hold it down in the bayou. We know how to deal with Spanish moss. And Miss Dina made that one. But we don't know how to use Spanish moss for cordage. We don't remember that Spanish moss was boiled and drank for chills and fever. So we forgot some things about Spanish moss too. We know about elderberry. Here's an elderberry, somewhere over here, an elderberry blowgun over there that Mr. Ivy, this guy right here, made. We know about elderberry. We sell it. They sell it in the stores. They make sambuca. It's good for viruses. We forgot that the beaten leaves are used for swollen hands, for headaches. They put it right here and wrap like a scarf around their head, and for headaches. And the flowers are taken for fevers. The flowers are good too. You know, we know a lot, right? We know a lot, and there are some things we don't know. We did a Library of Congress interview of some of the culture bearers in my tribe, and we made this short video so you can see the process and see like there are big things that we hung on to and remember. So I'm going to play it for you. The Library of Congress gave us a grant to do this.
Point to myself, I'm saying the word. When I point to you, you repeat what I said. That's it. It's going to be the easy way to do it. Let me be first.
That's mud and Spanish moss wrapping around willow. And it's not a mud hut, it's a mud oven. Can you see? Can you see? We know a lot. We remember a lot. And we forgot some things, like our colors, like using yellow dot to make yellow, boiling it in water, placing it, well, what I do is boil it in water and it turns a color, and you just make it a little bit darker than you want for the dye to come out. Or red, I haven't tried this yet, but this is a red oak and a black gum, and you burn just the bark into an ash, and then you dye over what's been dyed yellow. And black or brown, so black walnut, which makes a beautiful dye, which we have some of here. This is goldenrod, yeah. And over here, we have more goldenrod and more, see, we're doing it, you know? It's like, yeah, this can come back to us. This can come back. More goldenrod. This is black. Look at that, how beautiful. Black walnut. Yeah. And pokeweed, which makes a beautiful dye that is that color, and within a month it's not that color anymore, and I haven't figured out how to keep it that color. Goldenrod though stays just like, that's in back kind of over by the Walmart at my house. I just get out and pick it. But there's goldenrod. And sumac. Sumac does a couple of things. There's like a Indian lemonade you can make with sumac if you soak the berries in cold water. If you soak them in hot water, they have a tannic thing that you can make a light pink. And the leaves are what I use to mordant with. So they do have tannic acid, and they're a good mordant for the cloth. I use those. Isn't that beautiful? And black walnut, the many colors of black walnut. As a matter of fact, you know, they said in the Bushnell article, or the article, that they used to see a lot of yellow, red, black, and then natural color. So there's a lot of, dock root is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. That's like an orangey color. It's just beautiful. I saw some on the way here. I almost pulled over. I was like, I wonder if they catch me if I just pull it up, but I didn't do it. We also have at the garden, because we're wanting these things to come back to us. Now, let me tell you something. Here's my opinion about it. If I went to your house right now and I went into your medicine cabinet and I said, oh, let me see what medicine you know about, and you pulled it all out, I wouldn't know everything you had ever taken, right? That wouldn't be everything. And especially not back in the day when there were seasons for things, right? And so I figure, you know, if people in the Southeast were using, you know, dock to dye, it doesn't matter whether my tribe used it or not, because probably they did, because probably they had a friend over there, you know, and it came to our, people were traveling, communicating with one another. So I'm looking for anything that works, basically. Basically, the idea is, you know, if we don't bring, I have friends who were like, yeah, Tammy, don't dig the native plants, because the native plants, you know, we want them to stay around. I'm like, the best way to make sure they're around is to get somebody to start weaving with palmetto, because then they're going to plant palmetto, and then they're going to tend palmetto, and they're going to tend it correctly. They're going to take, this is the heart. They're going to take, they grow up like a brother and a sister. They're going to take the brother. They're going to leave the sister, because they want the palmetto to continue. They want the palmetto weaver to continue. This is the way to keep these plants around. So we have these workshops for people, and Native people come and they learn about our plants, and they learn about our uses for these plants. They get back into relationship. Like, I would never mow over a palmetto, right? Never. I would go see if it had a brother and sister coming up, because this is for Miss Janie, but I would never mow over palmetto. I would never mow down, this is cypress, a cypress. I would never harm, you know, coral honeysuckle, right? This is Miss Janie talking here.
Is it on? I think I gave the palmetto more than I had to Dean. I think she, so this is the palmetto heart. It's been, and I want to use the word separated, because I heard one of our elders talk about it. I had delivered some palmetto hearts to some of the basket weavers, and the husband says, well, you know, I'm the one that takes it and séparer, which means separate. And, you know, we say, you know, strip, but it's séparé. So it's, you know, to separate each part of the leaf. Now, I'm from my village, and where we harvested with my dad, the palmetto cut building, those areas are going now, and that had to do with the levee system that came in. And these were huge palmetto that we would harvest from. And for my dad, you know, learned that you always leave, you know, some for the plant. You don't go in there and just destroy the plant, take all the beautiful leaves. You know, you leave that, you take one or two and move on, you know, and same thing with harvesting the heart. They grow two together, and you can see right in here is where the other one would be. Usually, you know, when the stem's showing is where you go in and cut with your knife or machete, and leaving the other one that's not quite ready still coming up behind the And that's, like I say, like in everything you hear Native people, you always think of the future. And that's thinking of the future not only for the plant, but also as you harvest, leaving it behind, thinking of the next generation of the palmetto, the next generation of palmetto leaves. And so,
Is that not beautiful? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. So we're bringing these dyes, at least this is what I'm doing right here. I'm demonstrating dyes and, dye. And I brought that to Tunica Biloxi. I've been going to their basket day. Well, they invite me to their basket day. And they're putting names on the plants in their language. See, we're bringing it back, That's how we do it. That's how you do it. And they want to know about it. I go to Jazz Fest as well. Jazz Fest invited me back this year. I think this is my 4th year. I'm not sure. But Jazz Fest, it's a lot of work. But Jazz Fest invited us. And we go over there and we talk to people about, it's like when you color with the plant and then you go, and what I always say is, don't you want that in your yard? Wouldn't you want that in your yard? Why don't you grow it? Here's some seeds. Like especially pokeweed, man, I just like give them seeds. Or like blueberry, I just like give them out. But yeah, it's like a woman over there, she was doing something. She said, yeah, this pokeweed cost me a lot of money. They were dyeing wood for violins, and they were next to me. I'm like, you paid money for pokeweed? And she's like, yeah. And I said, oh, here. And I gave her like a cup full of seeds. I said, go plant these. You can have all the pokeweed you want. Isn't that beautiful? This is a display at Jazz Fest. See that? I'm just not good. And then, I bring posters. You're going to see some tomorrow lined up in there. But I make these posters of what these plants have been used for and how to stay in relationship. Plants, I do a lot of like tending that garden. And so I think about like all the things that garden teaches me. Like there's one plant there, Spanish dagger. And Spanish dagger will poke the crap out of you. Every time I touch it, it makes me bleed. I don't even have to, I can walk by it and some kind of way it's going to grab me. And, you might want to chop it down for that, right? Except that Spanish dagger, in the root, there's a saponin. You can wash your hair. You can wash your clothes. The dagger is actually a needle. The frond is actually thread when you dry it out and strip it. It shoots up with a bloom that you can eat the white flowers off the bloom. Why kill that, right? It's like, why? If you really understand. And, I have a friend like that who's pokey as crap. You get around her, she gonna poke you and piss you off, but loyal to the end of the earth and will give you the shirt off her back. So this is like teaching me to think deeply or beyond just one thing. It's like teaching me how to think about other beings and other people too. A lot of lessons from that garden. Here we are, a taste of the garden. So we got people to come, and there's a Choctaw woman right there. Come and eat hominy, which is corn, and banaha, which is a corn with peas in it, and grape dumplings, which is muscadine. So it's like we're putting those plants back into and seasoning things with like wax myrtle leaves, and we're putting those plants back to use, getting back into relationship. They made a movie called Hollow Tree, and they came to the garden with one of my tribal members. And we had a screening at the university, and all these kids, about 100 of them, came to our garden. We lit her up. We're going to light her up again because this is her 20th birthday. And I'm like, you know what? You're grown now. Deal with yourself. But and now she's married to Physical Plant because Physical Plant's helping me. So I'm like, yeah, that's fine because I have raised her enough. But no, Mama's, I'm never going to be done with her. So, but all these kids, we're going to do this right here. We're going to light her up and we're going to serve food. We're going to serve native plant food around our garden for her birthday in November. We had the garden was featured on Ritual, a PBS show about old practices that are still around. And we talked about how this garden is necessary for today. And we've got kids who are graduating, of course. This one got a BS and an MS at Mississippi, at Southern Miss, where I am, and went to his tribe and built a medicine wheel. And yeah, so it's like we're moving this on, and we got a baby medicine wheel over there. I'm just bragging now. On her, not on me, but her seeds went into this garden. Her seeds went into this garden in Bayou Lacombe. And these are these 3 articles that I'm telling you made her famous. Well, she was already kind of famous. And then these came out, and the university actually went, oh, wow, we got something here. I'm like, wow, y'all. Yeah. You know, we need these gardens. We need all these gardens. We need more of these gardens because they are our allies in undoing of what we've done to get ourselves out of balance. This is what happens when there's no protection from the wind. This is what happens when you mow the trees down so you can see the water. No barrier islands when the swamps are drained. This is what happens to us when we forget our relationship to these other beings who protect us, who care for us, who feed us, who clothe us, we need these to come back into our lives. It's like I tell people, this is like, plants are like, you know, in the Army, I was in the Army when I was 18 years old. And what we were taught is you go and you dig a trench, you jump up in there, and you keep the property. That's them, right? You dig a hole, you put them in, and you keep the property. And not only that, but if you can take more property, go for it. And they will, right? They will. This is how necessary they are right now. We just don't know it, but they are necessary in this world right now. This was a flyover by South Wings. I have a friend over there, Jenny, who called me, and she's like, you want to go take pictures of your tribal areas after Hurricane Ida? And I'm like, sure. And oh my gosh, I mean, I couldn't even hardly recognize where I was. We need them. We need them to build land, to prevent erosion. We need them too because, you know, relationship is important. And we think of relationship as with other human ones, but other human ones are not the only beings on earth. There are all kinds of beings on this earth who need to be in relationship, who we need to be in relationship with, who are in relationship with one another, under the ground, over the ground, sending signals. We need to tap in to their way of maintaining themselves and being. And we're back now to where we started. This is a mound that we built on the Lafitte Greenway. And we're going to start planting around this mound. You guys need to come visit and tell us what ideas you have, because we're going to start planting around this mound. And one way or another, we're going to have plants around this mound. One reason is I'm thinking about putting Spanish dagger all the way around the bottom because because these kids are climbing up it and digging into it and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I can fix that now. Kind of scary, but we want for you to work with us in this too, because when we pass by your house and we see Yopon holly, we're like, hey, you know, that just reinforces this is important. This is beautiful. This is necessary. This is not a trash plant. This means something to us and to you. I want to show you our mound. These are love letters we wrote to the mound before she was born. You know how you have a baby and it's like people are like excited, and so yeah, they drew pictures for her with native plants, of course, native plant pigments. Here's our garden. You can come visit her anytime. She's all open. We have a lot of sponsors. We have people who help us out. Not only these, but lots of people who help us out. And I want to let you know that Saturday and Sunday, we're going to be at the building, we're going to have built a palmetto hut that'll be at the Los Isleños Fiesta. That's where we built that hut that you saw. And Saturday on 22 March, we're going to have equinox at the Nani. There's also a botanica exhibit in the Cabildo with people from the Southeast who are talking about plants. And then in November, I don't know when, but we're going to have a birthday party for the Medicinal Garden. You're invited to all of this, and I appreciate you very much inviting me here, and I thank you for coming and listening and being native plant people yourselves. Thank you.